first thing an entrepreneur must have in place before launching out is a business plan. Now, a business plan, I will be quick to add, must not be cast in stone, because basically a business plan is a summation of assumptions. The market size is assumed. The price point at which buyers will buy is assumed. The production cost assumed, marketing cost, everything is all assumed, and there's an interplay of all this, which one may have an issue, and then the business falls apart. As much as possible, the entrepreneur must sit down and dispassionately look at the opportunity itself. So this is the business, this is the product, or this is the service. Okay? Now, how many people require this service? He must be ready to challenge the figures he comes up with. He must be ready to accept that his preconceived notions may not be correct. And then working with, iterating those figures, he now begins to work to get towards a budget, the takeoff budget, the operational budget, even the growth budget, so that he would not be caught unawares once there is success, because he must also be prepared for success as much as for failure. So the business plan should not just be this wonderful document with all kinds of figures and all kinds of graphs. It looks very nice, and then immediately you start the business. It's of no use. The truth of the matter is that they say that the first casualty of battle is the battle plan. I highly recommend that every entrepreneur should read William Salmon's article on how to write a great business plan. William Salmon is a professor of business administration at Harvard, no less, and he's been involved in over 50 startups. So it has both theoretical knowledge as well as practical understanding of how businesses or startups work. And he identified 4 factors. The first is the people, second is the opportunity, then the context, and risk and reward. Now, for him, people is key because they will be the ones that would face whatever the business world throws at them, right? He had started by saying, yes, numbers are good, and having numbers linked to each other is excellent. But he would always start by looking at the people, because they will be the ones who would be able to alter all the variables, whether it's a product or a service, as is required. Because one sure thing is the business plan is likely not to be correct, in the sense that all the assumptions are not going to be correct. Otherwise, entrepreneurship would not be entrepreneurship. So the people will be is that X factor that will be able to deal with all that. The second is the opportunity. What would it sell? To whom? In what form? So you begin to have to dig deep down and ask serious questions. If it's a service, is it required? Why is it required at this time? So you begin to look at the product and service in a new light, possibly customer facing, so that you really can understand it, if you can stand in the shoes of the customer to see if they're going to buy the product. Again, as an offshoot, I would suggest that entrepreneurs also read biographies of great companies. Shoe Dog is the story of Nike. Grinding It Out is the story of McDonald's. Those will give you an insight in understanding this, in answering these questions, the opportunity, for instance. And the context is the environment, the regulatory environment, the regulatory framework. So, for instance, an idea might not have been viable, say, 2 years ago. But now, say, with the fact that you can port from one phone company to the other, a business opportunity can arise from that, which was not in existence before that framework was done, and it's possible that might just be for a window and a point of time. So again, the entrepreneur really has to understand the context and to know whether it would affect his business going forward. And finally, risk and reward. The accepted notion these days, it used to be that an entrepreneur is a risk taker, but we're now understanding that entrepreneurs actually minimize risk. They try as much as possible to remove as many risk factors as possible. So you have to see, is the reward going to be worth the risk? If it isn't, then again, you may find yourself wishing you weren't in the business. So it's critical that you take all these 4 factors into consideration and then bring all this into the numbers. You cannot have a business plan without numbers. And you have to understand the interplay of the numbers. So for instance, if you ask yourself a question, how easy is it to retain a customer? That has implications for your research budget instantly. If it's easy to retain customers, then you might need to spend a huge chunk at the beginning, get your customers in, and then you know that basically it's plug and play from then on. But if every time you have to get a new customer, so on and so forth, then you have to see if your marketing budget can meet that. So that is what the great professor is saying by looking at those interplay of those factors before you now come to your numbers. So for me, it starts with the business plan. Critical, and through that you will be able to answer every other question as long as you do and you write the business plan properly.